Firstly, I just want to say thank you to all my new subscribers and, of course, my existing subscriber base. It's been growing over the past, maybe 6 months, and I haven't really put out any new content. Most of the growth has been due to, my chiptune series that I've only made the first 4 parts of at this point. I know you're all wanting to get the full series, but it really takes a lot of effort. I have to script out every single word and process for each video. So I basically, write as I'm recording myself physically going through the, audio through Logic and building the song. I script it out and then I refilm it after I've recorded my audio. It's a process that takes a lot of work to get it that clean and crisp. So I know you're all waiting for the next, piece in that series, but at this point I'm not able to continue working on the series until I get some funding or some support, or maybe just some extra time, because I have a lot of other projects going on at this point. But in the meantime, I have put together a quick video for you demonstrating how I take something that I write on piano and turn it into a chiptune, or or actually any electronic piece. But this one's focused on chiptunes specifically, and I'm just taking idea that I came up with really quick and turning it into a chiptune. And this would be a good area to start, or a good video to start with, once you've looked at the first 4 videos in my magical chiptune, or my chiptunes with the magical 8-bit synth series. After you've watched the first 4 parts and you understand what the limitations are and how to create drum sounds and how you use a bass sound, there's a lot more here, but this will show you in a quick video, how I take those principles that I discussed in the first 4 videos and turn it into a song. So without further ado, we'll get right into the video, and I'll show you, how to take a basic idea on piano and turn it into a chiptune. So I've come up with a quick piano concept. It's just a jazz progression, and it's kind of an endless progression, so it cycles back on itself seamlessly. Okay, so now that we have the audio within Logic, again, this is just the piano that I recorded. Okay, I think this was the one that went right. Yeah, so I'll chop it and we'll clean it up a little bit. Basically, I had already set a tempo when I recorded this to 140 beats per minute, which should give us a really up-tempo feel, even though, this feels like a ballad piano at this point. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a really up-tempo track. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to set a loop around this. We don't even have to clean it up at this point. You could come over here and highlight all of these and basically just set it to a certain quantization, whether it's 16th notes or 8th notes, if you want it to be perfect, which we probably eventually will do this because it's going to be electronic and perfect sounding. So I guess we can do that now. All right, so it repeats the same thing. So really, that's all we need. We can actually get rid of the rest of these notes, and we'll chop this down to a 4-bar loop. And we'll make this 4 bars. Okay, so that's a perfect 4-bar loop. I'm actually just going to drag this to the beginning of the song, so we're working cleanly here. Reset this loop point down here, and now we're ready to begin transforming this into some sort of chip tune. You know, we're not sure what we're going to get yet. I'm doing this on the fly. So again, just came up with this chord progression really quickly. It's a cyclical thing, so we're creating a loop with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a snare just to keep our tempo. And I'm actually going to use only one of these parts of the snare head. So we'll record a quick, just a really quick snare idea here, which will basically just be hitting on the 2s and 4s. Actually, since it's up tempo, yeah, it's going to be hitting on the 2s and 4s. So we could just create an empty region here, and we will create a couple notes here. Actually, give it a little more body than that. We'll turn up the velocity. We'll make sure it's an exact quarter note, and we're going to put it on 2 and 4, 2 and 4, 2 and 4, etc. Okay. I'm actually just going to clean up the tail of that a little bit. Okay, now let's say that we want to, I think that I want this to have kind of an up-tempo feel with maybe, you know, kind of rapid hi-hat notes, maybe 16ths or maybe even some 32nds. So let's create, actually we'll use this as a template. We'll just mute this really quick. And again, keeping the limitations, we don't want to play at the same time. We don't want to play the hi-hat at the same time that the snare is playing. So we'll actually leave the notes out, but let's just come up with a quick pattern here. Let's see what 16ths are going to sound like. Okay, so I'm hearing something quicker. I'm hearing, let's see here. Actually, I'm going to speed this up because I'm hearing something faster. Maybe 160. Maybe a little faster. 68. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so that's the pattern I'm hearing. That's really basic, but that's what I'm hearing. I'll just make a loop out of that really quickly, and we're going to raise this. We can actually get rid of these snare notes. We're going to raise this up a little bit, make it sound more like a hi-hat. We'll also rename this to hi-hat. Let's see. Okay, let's put one more note in there. Oops, right here. Okay, now I'm hearing a variation on that to make this 4-bar loop. So I hear 30 seconds here. even more. Okay, and maybe we'll put in 30 seconds here. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So now let's start dissecting this piano part. We know what the bass notes are. They're actually we played every bass note. You know, basically it's in root position with some sort of inversion on top of the right hand, but the left hand is playing the bass line. So we actually can take this whole piano region in here and copy it down to the triangle channel where we have our bass. We'll rename it bass. And the first thing we'll do is mute the bass notes in the piano. And we will delete all of this stuff except for the bass notes. Okay, so I'm hearing something more funky. The notes are fine, but they need to be more punchy and punctuated. So we're gonna start manipulating this here. Yeah. See, for good measure, we'll just make sure that the dynamics are the same. Velocity. Don't like this. Okay, so what I'm hearing is actually a note dip here, a curve. So we'll actually go into our tools here, and we don't need these sustain pedal notes. It's not a big deal that they're there, but we'll just get rid of them all. Actually, just get rid of that. Turn it off everywhere. Okay, and we're actually going to go into the pitch bend automation tool. We're going to draw a new pitch here. Okay, first of all, I want these to be right on the money at 0. Okay. So I'm hearing it dip back in here. So this note's probably gonna have to be longer here. Yeah, something like that. We're getting close. Okay, so okay, maybe we can cut this off quick. Okay, I like that. Maybe we can follow the pattern here. hear it with the band. So I'm hearing a chordal change. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah. Doo-doo. Yeah, that works. Yeah, I think this works. It's a simple bass line, but it's a big difference from what we had. We've really made it a lot more funky. Now I would like a slide, but that's going to be too much work in this tutorial. So I'd like it to dip. For instance, from this note to this, I'd like it to slide down, and you would open this up, and we'd have to create a new channel or draw some automation for the actual sweep switching to get it to do that. But right now, I'm not going to go into that. Really, we're just trying to get a basic loop so you can get an idea of how you can turn, you know, some chords from your piano into an 8-bit track. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. Okay, so now we got to take some of these other voices that we have in here and split them up. Now we know that the melody is we know what the melody is. We can hear it. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. So that's the melody. So I think we should try to isolate that first, and we're going to do that in the square channel. Actually, you know what? Let's do it in the Pulse 25 channel. Rename this Pulse 25. Spell it correctly. Oh. All right, and what we're going to do is eliminate all of the notes that aren't part of the melody. Should be left to the melody. All right, so we want it to sing a little bit more than that, so we're going to add, we're actually going to add this modulator I already have set up, and you can copy the settings here if you're using Logic. But we actually have to instantiate it by really turning the vibrato depth up and elongating the notes so we can hear this tone kind of have a singing quality. Also going to turn. Give me a moment here. What was going on there was we had the problem with the delay, but it's all set now. We're going to set our depth really high and mess with the time to get that right, and then we'll bring the depth down. we want to we want the delay to be triggered late. So let's see. We want to give it a little time to be without the vibrato, so it sounds more like a voice. Clean these up. Alright, so that's good for now. We'll turn that down a little bit. So now we have these chords here, and we can remove, let's take this, and we're basically, one of the things that we can do is turn this into an arpeggiated synth, or we can use one of our voices here, either the square or the pulse wave, to basically make an arpeggiated chord out of the chords that we've already played here. So let's duplicate this, and I think we're going to be done with this piano, so we're going to mute it. But let's put this maybe in the square, and let's again get rid of the melody, because we already have it covered by the Pulse 25. Okay, so we're left with really these notes. We can get rid of these stragglers here. So we're just left with the chords. Let's even them up, make them all the same. In terms of length, we're going to do some trimming here. There we go. All right, so now let's actually mute this modulator and turn it off, and we'll add an arpeggiator here. And let's give it a really fast rate, something like 64 maybe, 64th notes, and see what we have. Okay, I think we have something going on. Let's turn this off first. Actually, get rid of these notes. There we go. I think the 64th is actually going to be a little fast. There we go. So what if we elongate this? So what I'm going for right now is kind of a hill, basically, where you go up several octaves and you come down right within, it's basically crawling by 30-second notes. Not loving the sound. Let's try changing that to a 12.5% pulse. That's not bad. I don't mind that. So we're actually going to change this to pulse 12.5%, and we'll just copy that up here to make sure the project stays clean. All right, so now we have this. Which actually sounds like it could be the intro to a song. So you would then take this and build other elements into it. Perhaps we would add, you know, if you're not concerned about limitations, maybe we'd add another square wave here and put something else in it, something like off tones. Let's see, like syncopated sounds, some sort of syncopated rhythmic melody. Okay, so I actually had an audio mishap. I recorded this whole session in 2 different takes. You know, one for the first part and one for the second half, which we haven't gotten to yet. But I lost some audio in the last section of the first part. So I'm actually going to switch over now to recording here as commentary on what I'm doing rather than hearing the audio of what I actually was saying at that point, simply because I lost the audio. So I apologize for that, but I assure you, you know, we'll be able to continue on. What we're going to do here is actually create a manual delay and see if we can add to this effect. We're actually going to up the delay an octave. So I like the effect, but I thought we could do something better, and that would be to add a tremolo. And sometimes I do this often on some tracks to add some to basically increase the audio width or depth of the track. So you can see I'm adding a tremolo here, and in this case I'm using a hard tremolo. So I really wanted to pan left and right hard. And you hear it, it widened the track immediately. You know, so you can kind of hear these elements bouncing left and right, back and forth with the tremolo. So I was thinking that I could have a sweeping effect as well on the arpeggiated synth, have it slowly sweep from one side to the other, but I want it to be smooth rather than hard. Instead of going left and right, I wanted to pan left and right smoothly. And I wanted to do it over the course of a bar. So you'll hear that in this example right here. I actually changed my mind. I wanted it to go from one side to the other in half of the phrase and then back to the end of the phrase. Now we want to take this existing idea and we're going to duplicate our existing loop, and we want to build upon it by creating a new melody. I mean, you could hear a melody in the first part in this loop that we've already built, but it's not a real melody. You know, so it's more something that's fitting for an intro. So in this next section, you're going to hear me trying to create a new melody, and I go through it live, so you're going to hear some mistakes and some really tinkering, and it takes a while to get one, but when I get one, I record it. So in my original take that I liked in my practice, I went up at the end of the phrase instead of down, so you can see me going in here to kind of fix that issue and bring the melody up instead of down. I still wasn't happy completely with the end, so I wanted to fix it up a little bit, make some changes. I was hearing something different after my recording. Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted. A little early, so I had to clean this up a little bit. Yep, that's early. That is not in time. That's supposed to be syncopated. Supposed to be on the beat there. So now I'm going through the entire melody and I'm cleaning up the ends. With a singular voice, you can't have polyphony, so you really can't have any overlapping notes. So I had to clean up every single end, going through each note individually. You could use some of the time tools within the functions here to do this, but there's so many varying lengths of notes that it's just as fast to do it manually. And at this point, I believe I was talking about expanding upon the arrangement and starting to mute different tracks to create more of a maybe a breakdown section after the melody. Create a real intro by muting certain things. We're going to bring in the bass here in the second part of this intro. Oh no, we'll bring in the intro melody first, then the bass. Notice I've made it a little more complex as well by dropping out the arpeggiated synth. And then it makes the second one, the repeat of the melody feel a little bit more significant when the arpeggio comes back in. I'm also starting to hear a pumping in the bass. That's another way to develop this section a little bit more. Rather than just having the exact same bass line, we actually hear a pumping. So I'm going to build the pumping bass line all along the repeat of the melody to build upon the song a little bit and to add some variety. Also to make it more intense. The sound is going to be a little bit more intense than it was in the introductory of that A part melody. You got to basically make sure there's a 16th note on every 8th note, or every half a beat within the bass part for this this second section here. So you'll see me putting at least a 16th note on every 8th note. And I'm just using the existing notes that are already there. So then we're going to copy that, duplicate it, so we have the pumping happening the entire second repeat. We can hear the development. that's sounding much better. Now it's time to add the counter melody to make this even more interesting. To kind of create your counter melody, it's something I do very often. So we actually took this whole thing and transposed it up a sixth. So let's see, the original was, let's look at both of them. All right, so now we have a fifth. This is something that you typically don't want to do because it's going to give you almost an oriental type of sound, or you know, what the typical like Chinese sound that you would hear. You know, you want to avoid perfect fourths and perfect fifths. This is, right now we have a fifth, so we're actually going to bring this up another whole step, and then we'll be at a sixth. And you can see now that we have six. Let's see. Okay, so it's not working exactly. So what we'll have to do is we might have to use the notes to come up with something, you know, something that's more fitting and complementary of that. I'm already hearing something. Actually, I'm going to transpose the whole thing down. Da-na-na. Okay, this sounds like it's fifth here. And it is, yeah. So I like the beginning, but that second part is not going to work, so. Okay. There we go. Okay, so what do we have, an octave here? Okay, that works. All right, so let's actually duplicate this section and use it to create the next part. Maybe we want to go up the second time. So now I'm going to change the melody. I want the melody to go up, and we're actually going to harmonize it in a different way. Okay, so that gives it a little variety. So now we have to deal with this end part here. Dun, dun. Da, da, da. There we go. So now we've changed the melody. Maybe we move this melody, copy it over here. There's some continuity, and let's listen to the whole thing. Okay, I don't like this going up by itself, so we'll just make it repeat itself there. Okay, so you now have a basis. You would have to go on and write another part, a whole nother section, a different musical idea, maybe put it in the minor, relative minor key to this major key. There's all kinds of things that you could do, but you know, this is where you start. This is the basis of a full song where we started with one loop and we're moving into, you know, multiple sections, building up the loop. We built it up in one little section and then we're spreading it out to create more of an arrangement where pieces are coming in. So now that you have this, I want to go over the finishing process. So just to give this a quick finish, this is what you can do. We'll take the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure all the tracks are at about -6 to -4 dB for total output. So we're going to bring up our mixer. And we will give it a listen and take a look at this output level over here. Again, this should maximum be -4, but you really want it between -4 and -6 to prepare this for mastering. So one of the things to make this quicker that we'll do is we will go to probably the loudest part, which would be right here somewhere, or maybe even right here where you have the most going on. And you see we're at negative, you know, half a decibel, so we really have to bring everything down. So just click on this to reset it. check this part now. One thing that's helpful for mixing is to bring the level really low so you can barely hear it. And it will tell you, you'll be able to hear what's sticking out and what's not. So here the melody sounds like it's sticking out to me, and yeah, it sounds sounding pretty good there. And we're right at -6, which I'm fine with. So what we'll do is we will now elongate the entire, or we'll loop it over the entire track, and we will actually work on the mastering aspects of this to make sure that this is up to, you know, standard audio levels. So what we're going to do is we'll start with an EQ. So we will we'll start with, I'm going to recall the default, but I will probably use, with chiptune music, I really don't EQ it too much. I even when I compress it and use the limiter, I don't want to kill it, because it's really not meant to be you know, like a pop song or something. It's really not meant to be that, but I do want it to be at a pretty high level, so that's when someone listens to it, you know, if they're on YouTube or they're listening to it on SoundCloud or something like that, you don't want them to be like, oh, why is the music so quiet? It sounds unfinished, unprofessional. So you do want to bring it up to a certain level, but it is chiptune music, so you really don't need to really EQ it too much. You're really just trying to balance it out. So one of the things that in my channel strip here that I use is called a multimeter. This will give you an idea of what your mix is looking like in terms of the frequency spectrum. So obviously in the opening we don't have any bass going on, so it's mostly the highs and high mids. Add a little bit of a bounce to it. I think it's kind of getting a little shrill here. Notice I'm keeping the Qs really wide as well. It's really muddy in there. I'm really okay with that. that's just some minor changes there. The next tool we're going to use is the multipressor, which is going to allow us to apply multiple layers of percussion or compression across specific frequencies. So the first thing we'll use is we'll go to the final rock compressor. This is really kind of rock music. Turn the auto gain off, and we'll put this at 0. And the first thing that we want to do is you can change the frequencies here. If you see that or you hear that there's not enough compression going on here, you can kind of move these as you need to. But we're just going to leave it as it is with the stock rock compressor. And we'll listen to it, and we're going to basically drag down the threshold until it's engaging the compressor and compressing the audio. So we'll start up here since there's no bass in the beginning. Again, I don't want to over compress it, I don't want to kill it, so I just want this to kind of bounce nicely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to adjust the gain to balance out the visual and the sound. Okay, I'm fine with that. We really didn't do much to it. Now we just want to make sure that we're getting a similar output gain, around -6, because it does sound like it got quieter when we put this compressor on, and that's because I turned the auto gain off, so we really have to kind of make up gain ourselves manually here. So that's pretty good. So the last thing I'm going to do with this basic mastering is actually put in an adaptive limiter. And this is really going to push the gain, so it's going to get quite a bit louder. So you might want to turn your headphones down. I generally push this until this reduction is about 4 to 6 decibels as well. So there's our mastered mix. We'll listen to this without the mastering and then apply it throughout. Notice that the compression and the EQ actually made it a little bit more punchy and clear. So this sounds slightly muddy to me. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much to my new subscribers. I really appreciate it. And I hope to make something again for you real soon.